Hey everyone, welcome back to K-Korner, the channel where we dive into the wild world of entitled people and their unbelievable stories. Hope you enjoy it, and without further ado, let's go. It all started when my best friend Caroline and I decided to go shopping at the mall. We were both 25-year-old women and were excited to spend the day together. As we walked through the mall, we couldn't help but notice a woman who seemed to be causing a scene everywhere she went. She was middle-aged, with short, spiky blonde hair and a designer handbag that she clutched tightly in her hands. She seemed to be barking orders at anyone who came within earshot. "Excuse me, can you move out of my way?" she snapped at a young couple who were walking in front of her. Caroline and I exchanged a look, both of us annoyed by her entitled behavior. We decided to avoid her and continue our shopping, but fate had other plans. As we entered a boutique, we saw her again. She was standing at the front of the store, holding up a dress and demanding to speak to the manager. "I don't care if it's the last one in stock, I demand a discount." "This dress has a small tear in it," she said, pointing to a barely visible thread. The sales associate, a kind-looking man named Tom, tried to reason with her. "Ma'am, I'm sorry, but we can't give you a discount on a dress that's already on sale." "That's unacceptable," she screeched. "I demand to speak to someone higher up. Someone who can actually make a decision." Caroline and I exchanged another look, both of us feeling sorry for poor Tom. As we were about to leave the store, the woman turned her sights on us. "Excuse me," she said, blocking her path. "I need your opinion. Do you think this dress is worth full price, even with the tear?" Caroline and I exchanged a look, both of us trying not to roll our eyes. Sorry, we don't work here," I said. "I don't care if you work here or not. You're shoppers, and your opinion matters. Now tell me, is this dress worth full price or not?" I sighed, already feeling irritated. "Honestly, I don't know. It's up to personal preference." "Well, I think it's worth full price," the woman huffed, "and I demand that this store gives me a discount for the inconvenience of having to deal with a torn dress." Caroline and I tried to back away, but the woman kept blocking our path. "Excuse me, we need to leave," Caroline said, trying to sound firm. The woman didn't budge. "Not until I get what I want. You two seem like smart girls. Why don't you come work for me instead? I could use some fresh talent." Caroline and I exchanged another look, both of us surprised by her sudden job offer. What do you do?" I asked, out of curiosity. "I'm the CEO of a fashion company," she replied, puffing out her chest. "We're always looking for new talent." "What do you say? Are you interested in a career in fashion?" Caroline and I looked at each other, unsure of what to make of the situation. On the one hand, it was a tempting offer. Who wouldn't want to work in the fashion industry? On the other hand, this woman seemed like a nightmare to work for. "I don't think that's something we're interested in. Thank you," Caroline said, trying to sound polite. The woman scowled. "Suit yourselves. You're missing out on a great opportunity. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a dress to purchase." With that, she stormed off, leaving Caroline and I feeling relieved. As we left the store, we couldn't help but wonder what kind of boss she would be. "Do you think she was serious?" I asked, half jokingly. Caroline shrugged. "Who knows? But even if she was, I wouldn't want to work for someone like that. Life's too short to deal with entitled people all day." I nodded in agreement, grateful for Caroline's level-headedness. As we continued our shopping trip, we couldn't help but chuckle at the absurdity of the situation. It was just another day at the mall, full of unexpected encounters and bizarre experiences. This happened last night. I work security at a bar, mainly checking IDs and making sure the place doesn't get too rowdy, which it usually doesn't. Last night, a group of mostly British people came in around 11:30, and they stayed until close to, we have a ping pong table, and the group spent most of their time playing on it. The night continued as normal. I closed the back areas of the bar at 1 and announced last call 30 minutes later. 2 rolls around, and the first issue comes up. I turn off the music in the middle of a song which the group expresses disappointment in, even if it was a Nickelback song. Characters: me, PPG, ping pong guy, OBG, other British guy, ES, other members of the group. Me. Hey guys, it's 2 o'clock. We are officially closed. Time to head to the exit. OBG, can we take some photos in the photo booth first? Me. Okay, fine. I let them take their photos and I do a couple of tasks during this time. Our photo booth is slow, so it takes them a couple of minutes to take all the photos. As this is going on, the two guys are still playing ping pong. I finish the brief tasks I was doing and see that the group has finished taking their photos in PPG and the other guy are still playing ping pong. It's 2:05 at this point. Me. All right, y'all, we are officially closed. PPG, just 2 more points. Me. No, 1 more point. I let them do a game point, reminding them this is the last point of the night. The guy PPG was playing gets the point. Me. All right, we are closed. Time to head out. TPG, 2 more minutes. Me. I already gave you 5 minutes. TPG, come on, just 2 more points. Me. I already gave you a game point. TPG, come on, mate. Just 2 minutes. Me. I already gave you 5 minutes. We are closed. He continues to plead his case. I continue to deny him. The group he's with are keeping out of it, but they're basically ready to leave. TPG, how will you be able to sleep tonight knowing you kept a game from finishing? Me. I'll sleep like a baby. TPG, yeah, you look like a baby. At this point, I'm pretty much done with this guy. I act like I didn't hear him and simply take the paddles and ball away. The group eventually leaves. OBG, sorry about him. He's from a different country. Me, it's all right. It's just time to go. Have a good night. I do legitimately wish them a good night before locking the door. And that's pretty much the story. Might not be much, but both me and the bartender I was working were both annoyed at this guy. So I've been holding on to this for a long time. Sorry, it's long. I was a nurse considered high risk due to asthma, so I wasn't allowed to care for COVID patients or patients exposed to COVID that the hospital quarantined and treated as if they were positive, and I was on an IQ that wasn't taking COVID patients or even patients recently exposed to COVID. We had patients waiting for heart transplants, and if exposed, they were removed from the waiting list. Anyway, a patient was admitted from the ER and was asked if anyone close to him was positive for COVID. His wife tested positive 2 days earlier. He and his wife lied and said no because otherwise she couldn't visit, and they thought COVID wasn't a big deal. Plus, he didn't want to be in isolation for 5 days and tested every day to make sure he didn't have COVID. So he was sent to my unit because he wasn't positive at the time, and we had no reason to assume he'd be positive later. Remember, you are infectious and can spread the disease several days before you test positive. This was before I was able to get vaccinated. A few nights later, I start my shift, first of 4 12-hour night shifts in a row, and I was assigned to him. We did all baths and dressing changes on night shift, so I had to get up close and personal. I asked him to please wear a mask while I was in his room providing care per hospital policy. He said, "Hell no. It's my God-given right to not wear a mask," and went back to watching Xerox News. The charge nurse said to let it go. He proceeded to cough in my face every night for my 4 shifts until we moved him to another unit that 4th night. The next day he spiked a fever, was retested, and tested positive. By that time, he had exposed over 100 employees. It was also at that time we found out the truth about his wife. Less than a week later, I lost all sense of smell and taste and tested positive a few days after that. Unfortunately, I'm one of the lucky patients who never got better, and for whom COVID caused to develop several autoimmune disorders in addition to long COVID. I now have POTS, a form of dysautonomia. Basically, my autonomic nervous system no longer works properly. So not only do I faint sometimes when I change positions, I have a ridiculously high heart rate, blood pressures that are either too high or too low. I no longer sweat, and I'm unable to regulate my temperature. Get heat stroke very easy, so no outdoor time in the summer. Suffer from gastroparesis. Choke because my epiglottis malfunctions, heat intolerance, insomnia, brain fog, and so many other symptoms. I also developed MCAS. Look it up. Chronic fatigue syndrome, PTSD, and agoraphobia. This is in addition to my pre-existing fibromyalgia, ADAD, and depression. I went from taking 2 medications daily to over 20 meds. I went from having a crazy good memory to barely remembering if I ate breakfast. My wife has to do all my meds and remind me to take them. I don't leave the house except for doctor appointments, and even then I have to be heavily sedated to get me to go. We used to hike and whitewater raft, now I have to use a rollator to get around, and I can't stand for more than 10 minutes. I can't work. It took me days just to type all this up. I barely leave the couch. I'm only in my 30s. All of this because of one couple's entitlement. The cherry on top of all of this is my wife and I got married and bought a house 3 weeks before this all went down. Edit. I worked for a state-run hospital. In order to sue the hospital, I would have to actually sue the state I'm in. My wife has informed me that we did indeed look at a lot of different legal options. The lawyers willing and able to sue the state all wanted hefty retainers, and we can't afford it. This is just one of those times where the law couldn't help and actually hindered. Edit. 1. I read some comments from lawyers saying I can in fact sue him. It made me curious, so before looking up potential lawyers, I looked up him. I found his obituary. I could probably sue his wife, but she's lost her husband, and if she feels a fraction of how I'd feel if I lost my wife, then that's karma enough for me. 2. Why didn't my wife and I try harder to find a lawyer for a lawsuit? I don't remember that time, to be honest, but my wife has explained that she, and to an extent me, was in survival mode. She had a very sick, dependent wife, and she was working to support us. In addition to consulting different lawyers, she was also taking care of me, our pets, our new home, and trying desperately to get answers to why I wasn't getting better, and why my heart rate was 180 BPM to over 200 BPM, and why my blood pressures were either 80s, 50s, or 170s on 110. She didn't have help because everyone was still socially distant. She had to basically triage things, and finding a lawyer had to be cut from things she worried about. I'm now about 30 better than I was. I used to not be able to take more than a few steps without fainting, and I was completely incontinent. And my heart rate usually doesn't go above 150 while I move around. It was a beautiful day in the park, and I was enjoying my morning jog. As I was running, I noticed a group of teenagers gathered around a bench. As I approached, I saw a girl, about 16 years old, arguing with an older woman. The girl was holding a small dog, and the woman was yelling at her. "What are you doing here with that mutt?" "This is not a place for dogs," the woman said, her voice laced with entitlement. The girl tried to explain that she was just passing through and didn't know the park's rules, but the woman wouldn't listen. She kept berating the girl, calling her names and threatening to call the park rangers. I felt sorry for the girl and decided to intervene. "Excuse me, ma'am, but I think you're overreacting. The girl didn't mean any harm, and the dog is harmless." The woman turned to me with a scowl. "Who asked you, mind your own business?" I could feel my blood boil at her words. Who did she think she was, talking to me like that? I took a deep breath and tried to stay calm. "I'm sorry, but I can't just stand by and watch you bully a young girl like this. Please, let's all calm down and talk this out." The woman was livid, and I could see her hands balling up into fists. "Who are you to tell me how to behave?" "This is a public park, and I have every right to voice my opinion. If you don't like it, tough luck," she spat. I took a step back, wary of her sudden aggression. "Ma'am, please calm down. I'm just trying to help." But the woman wasn't having it. She tries to slap me, and her fists were flying. I dodged her attack quickly. "Stop it." "You're making things worse," I said, struggling to keep her at bay. The girl with the dog looked on in horror, unsure of what to do. "Hey, leave him alone," she shouted, trying to pull the woman away. The woman turned her attention to the girl, snarling. "You and your stupid dog." "This is all your fault," she yelled, making a grab for the dog. I stepped in front of her, blocking her path. "Leave the dog alone." "He's not doing anything wrong," I said, trying to reason with her. But reason was the last thing on her mind. She pushed me aside and lunged at the dog, who barked and snapped at her in defense. The woman screamed and tried to run away, but the dog was too quick for her. He chased her around the bench, barking and nipping at her heels, while the girl and I watched in amazement. "Well, that's one way to teach her a lesson," I said with a chuckle, watching as the woman stumbled and fell, trying to escape the dog's wrath. The girl looked relieved and grateful. "Thank you for helping me," she said, hugging her dog close. "No problem," I said, smiling. "Just remember to read the park rules next time." We walked away, leaving the woman to fend for herself. As we jogged along the path, the girl and I chatted about dogs and parks and life in general. It was nice to connect with someone new and share a moment of kindness in an otherwise hectic world. Enjoying the stories yet? If you do, please subscribe, like, and comment. So for starters, I normally don't use my iPad Pro in public for this exact reason. I bought my iPad with my own money after saving up for it for a few years since I had bills to pay, and the cost of my study needed to be paid too. I also only bought it because my old iPad 2 had finally given up on life. So since my old iPad was pretty beat up because I bought cheap stuff to protect it with, I decided that for this one I would go all out. I'm speaking of a €3,995 case, €4,995 for a new type of screen protector called alligator glass. Even adding on extra insurance, the store handed out for the discount price of €315. I also bought an Apple Pencil, €99, along with it. This alone comes down to €19,205 for the protective casing alone. Then for my iPad itself, I decided to go all out and treat myself on it. I got the biggest model, I think it's 12.9 inch, with 256 GB. I don't have the 4G on it since I don't really need it, and it would make the price of it as much as it'd cost me now, but then without all the protection added on. I mostly bought it because I wanted a good functioning drawing tablet, and I'm in absolute love with it. It works great. The price of this comes down to €100,900, making a total of €119,790. Why I'm listing this up is because it's going to be important later on. Now, as I said, I normally never even have my tablet with me when I leave the house. But I was doing a commission drawing for Steve, Uncle, who was awesome, but that will come forth later on, as he wanted a drawing of the dog of his girlfriend. He still refuses to call her that, but it's obvious that she is his girlfriend. I was already over the deadline I agreed on with him, because college decided to drop a ton of homework and studying for exams on us. Now, my uncle understood that school is more important for me than just drawing pictures, so he didn't mind that it was going to be finished later. So, since I basically had no time at all outside of college, I decided to bring my iPad to school. In the lunch breaks, and when the teachers were okay with it, I was drawing this drawing. Yes, my teachers are pretty cool about this kind of stuff, especially the teacher I had the last 2 hours that day since she teaches drawing on paper. And since I had the assignment done already, I was allowed to do an assignment for myself. So when the class was over and we got to go home, or in my case, to my weekly appointment with my psychologist, I decided to finish up the drawing on train to the place where I had my session. So all went well till the train stopped at the first station I got on. The train ride normally takes about 25 to 30 minutes to get from school to my destination, taking a stop of about 6 minutes at the last station before my stop. A mother and kid, I think the kid was around 7 or 8 years old or something, got on the train and sat in the same four-seater since the train was pretty busy and those seats were two of the few left. I didn't mind them at first because, well, it's a train. Anybody could have sat down there, so yeah. After a few minutes, the kid, who was very understanding, noticed that I was drawing, so he moved to the free seat next to me and started watching. I normally would feel really uncomfortable and stop drawing since I'm pretty insecure of my drawings. I basically only show them to my family and friend when I'm drawing. I also only post them anywhere after I'm done and satisfied with them, and I never look at those posts again, so I keep the little confidence I have of them. But this kid didn't seem to have anything bad to say about it, so I decided to come a bit out of my comfort zone. So while I was drawing, I kept saving the piece after every 2 minutes. It's also drawn in an app that can easily undo any mistakes, because I get paranoid about forgetting to save it when I have to get off the train. So this kid asked why I kept doing that, and I explained to him why. I kept drawing, and the kid was asking all kinds of questions which I all tried to answer. Then the kid suddenly said he wanted to become an artist too, and that he would love to have a tablet like I had too. So now the mother suddenly starts asking me where I got the thing and how much it cost. Now I'm guessing you guys understand what EM and me mean. EM, my boy loves to draw too. He always draws monsters and robots and all kinds of stuff. He's such a little artist. Me. Well, if he practices a lot, I bet he can make it his full-time job later. EM. I would like to buy a drawing board thing like you have for him too. It's his birthday soon, and he would love it. Where did you get it? Me. Well, I bought it at a hardware and electronics store, but I suggest you buy a smaller model with less extras if it's a gift. EM. Why? Do you think he's not good enough for the same model you have? Me. No, it's not that. It's just that this specific model with all the extra add-ons is pretty expensive. EM, for some reason, thinks she knows everything that's not true. I bet it only costs like €200. Why do you lie to me? Me. Yes. I'm the kind of person to go headstrong into confrontations when other people are wrong because I love how they come up with all kinds of lies and excuses. Oh, really now? Then tell me, why do you think it's only €200? EM. I saw one go on a place where you can buy secondhand stuff directly from the people, basically a sort of eBay, but then for the Netherlands for 200. She then proceeds to pull up the page she's referring to. Now it did go for €200, but the one she was referring to was an iPad 2 in perfect condition and like 64 GB. Me. Oh yeah, I see now. You're right. But the iPad you're showing me is a way older model that's also way smaller and it's secondhand. Mine was on its own already €10.09, completely new. EM. All models are basically the same. Why don't you let my little angel try it so he can decide if he really wants it? She basically said this in a demanding voice as if she owned it. Me. Sorry, woman, but this is my iPad and I don't let anybody else use it, which is true. I don't even let my family touch it to put it away or something. For if it wasn't clear yet, this iPad is my baby. That's nonsense. It's not like he's going to break it. Just let him draw for a few minutes. Now we were at the last station before my stop, so even if I let others touch it, I wouldn't know since I almost had to get off the train myself. Me. Sorry, but no. I have to get off at the next station, so no. And also, it isn't your property, so don't feel entitled to decide who can use it. The kid was already clearly embarrassed and trying to tell his mom that he didn't want to draw on it anyways. EM. Totally ignoring the pleas of the kid, telling him that she's going to get the thing. Me. Lady, I can hear you, and you're not getting my iPad. EM. Then proceeds to try to snatch it from me. Me. Gently smashing her hands away. Listen up, lady, I don't care who you think you are, but try that again, and I'll call the police on you. EM. Getting mad now you don't need it anyways. You're just a dumb kid that doesn't know anything about art. By now, the whole train was basically looking our way. Me. Oh, sorry, woman. I didn't know you knew about art. I guess studying art in the best art school in this area of Holland isn't seen as knowing about art. EM. Stop telling lies. A dumb kid like you wouldn't even be allowed near a school like that. Now, my school is one of the best art schools in the whole goddamn Netherlands, and it's really hard to get into it. Almost throughout the whole land, everybody knows this school. So I was ready to crush this woman. Me, saving the drawing and putting my iPad back in my bag. Listen up, nothing about me nor my education. You have no right to verbally harass me like that, and you certainly do not have any right to try and steal from it. Leave me alone and piss off. EM. How dare you use bad words like an infant of my kid? I could have you arrested for endangerment of a child? By now I was 99 sure that this woman had lost it. So I zip up my bag, grab my school bag, get up and walk to a different seating area. I hoped that this would be the end of this crazy witch, but no witches will be witches. So I'm sitting in this new spot. Guess who comes to sit behind me? EM, of course. I put my headphones on and turn my music up to block her out. As the train starts to move again, I feel a tap on my shoulder. I turn to see a conductor, so I grab my train card thinking he's checking people if they check in. This happens every now and then. He then proceeds to stop me, gesturing to take my headphones off. So I do what is asked because I can't afford to lose my only way of getting to and from school. He was a pretty cool dude, so give a warm welcome to CD for cool dude. Conductor. CD. The woman behind you says that you stole her kid's tablet. Is this true? Me. As a matter of fact, is all but true. This woman has verbally assaulted me, tried to steal my iPad, and then kept on harassing me as I moved away. CD. Ma'am, is this true? EM. No, she's clearly lying. A dumb kid like her could never even afford such an expensive thing. Me, pulling up the picture I made of the receipt, which has my name on it and the serial number of my iPad, along with pulling up the serial number of my piano on my iPad itself. Unless she has any proof that beats my proof, I'm not giving her my iPad. And also, I'm not a dumb kid, I'm legally an adult. CD checks the things, asks for me to identify myself, which I happily do, and comes to the conclusion that I'm telling the truth, ma'am. If you don't leave this girl alone, you'll be escorted off the train and banned. So, after that, I don't hear much from the woman anymore, probably because I have my headphones on again. And once the train stops at the station, I get off and start walking to the place I have my appointment at. I decided to not make a police report about it since I don't know their names or any info whatsoever. And also, since the situation wasn't like threatening, the police won't do much about it anyways. But that was basically it. I never take my iPad out of my house ever again, and a few weeks later I finished the drawing and got it made into a Foster for my uncle. He gave me €70 for it, even though the actual price was only $5,995 for it. So, yeah, that's it. And for the people who question why I keep a picture of the receipt on my phone, it's not for a situation like this, but I keep it so I can get the costs of the drawings I make, right? So I also slowly earn the cost of my iPad back. And since I don't want to search through all the receipts I saved of my drawing art supplies, I decided to just take a pic of it. Happened a couple of years ago. New family moved in a couple doors down when the same age as my youngest. We live in the boondocks 3 km from the nearest school bus stop. All parents drive their kids to the stop and wait in a car until the bus comes. There are no street lights, bears and cougars. After a while, we got to be friendly. Even though the mom was loud and spoke aggressively, the rest of my family didn't like her, and we discussed our transportation plans. I am lucky enough to have a brother with a disability who takes my kids to the bus when my husband and I work. My neighbor, E.N., entitled Neighbor, asked if my brother would consider picking up her son, as well, on the way by, and she would pay him $20 a month. He agreed and was feeling pretty proud of having a job. 2 months later, he told me that she then offered more pay, $40 a month. He was very pleased about that. Being in the boonies, we had to drive down their very dark, narrow driveway, then turn around in a very small area in front of their house to go back out. It was difficult. If my brother wasn't feeling well, other family members took driving duty and picked up the other child. No matter what, our whole family was happy to help my brother with his job. Sometimes the child was sick and they didn't let us know. Sometimes he was still asleep and we were waiting. Sometimes the parents were even at home and they didn't take their own child. The parents always left earlier and the child, around 18 years, was left alone until we arrived for pickup. This went on for almost 2 years. The second year she contacted us and offered to bring over a cheesecake at Christmas time to thank my brother. I said that was very kind, but she didn't have to. I'm sure my brother would like it. I can't eat dairy, but I'm very kind. She said, non-dairy. I said again, not necessary, but a kind thing. She never brought over anything, not even a card. My brother got no contact from her directly to be thanked at all. So one day I got a text from the EN that she wasn't happy with her son riding in our work truck to and from the school bus. That there were tools that had to be moved over so he could sit. I was flabbergasted. We all live on a steep hill, so having a big truck with forks 4 is the safest vehicle we own. Snowy, rain, you name it. The drive took less than 10 minutes, so what if we had to push tools out of the way so he could sit? I was fuming over her presumption when I had a conversation with my brother about her paying you $40 months, and he told me that she only paid him twice or maybe 3 times. Been a few years, can't remember exactly. The whole time, I never paid him $40 at all. It was the $20 payments. I was furious that he hadn't mentioned it before and that she had been taking advantage of the whole family for almost 2 years. Our family had bent over backwards for this child. Even if my own child wasn't going to school, we would get up and go get the neighbor's child. So I texted the EN me. So I just talked to my brother and he told me you have only paid him 2 or 3 times this last 2 years. Can you please explain? I'm confused. The agreement was $20 a month, then you offered $40. What's going on? EN, I can't remember her exact words, but no apology, no offer of payment, and I offered to bring you a cheesecake at Christmas, but you said you didn't want one. I didn't say that. I said she didn't have to. Me, humble country person? I fully expected her to bring one. I then told her we were, under no circumstances, going to continue this way. I said payment had to be made. We had to be given notice if child not going to school, that he had to meet us at the top of his driveway instead of battling down their drive. That if parents were home, they took him and we still were going to be taking our work truck most of the time. I didn't want to deal with that family anymore, so I just said every demand that I could think of, knowing her personality would blow up. Ian, he'll, her child, get picked up at our door if I say he's going to be picked up at our door. I know there was no way that they were going to back pay the fee, as they were constantly complaining about money. So I said, well, this is not working for us, so you will have to make other arrangements as we will no longer be driving your son. So consider the last 15 months, excluding summer Christmas breaks, etc., a gift from our family to yours, and we'll just leave it there. Ian, how are we supposed to get our son to the bus? We need someone to drop him off and pick him up at the end of the day. We will be at work. Why are you being such a hard ass? I ignored her and blocked her. Didn't speak to her family for years. I was furious at her outrageous entitlement. My friend said it best. What pisses me off the most is people who get something for free, then feel entitled to it for free, then complain that what they are getting for free isn't good enough for them anymore. The family changed their son's school to back to the private school he had before that was closer to their work. Edit. I remember more now. Her response to my asking about the payment was, well, he never asked for it. Short backstory, I'm good with computers and other tech. It's a mixture of entitled and I don't work here, but the I don't work here was a funny misunderstanding that led to Kevin the entitled. So this happened in 2019 before stores were closing for sickness reasons, and I believe it was September, could be wrong, but around there. So in my area, there are 3 computer stores, and the one I went to was in Scooby-Doo, Voice Rest Route. AMD and NVIDIA had just released some new products, so I wanted to get one. They were out, of course, but then I feel a tap on my shoulder. It was a woman no older than me, 28, 35. She asked if I knew much about computers. I told her, yes, I do. It didn't occur to me she thought I worked there as I wasn't wearing the uniform. She gave me a piece of paper that was a parts list and said it was for a gaming computer her brother was going to build for her son. And what a parts list it was. It was so horrible. Asus 970 and Ryzen 7 2700, incompatible, and every part did not make sense like this. He was apparently going to charge her $2,500 for a $900 computer on the high end. I explained to her my concerns and pulled up references, so she did not think I was pulling one over on her. Again, she didn't know I was a customer too at the time. So I went into work mode and started my questions, and unlike the Karen in my previous story, she knew what her kid wanted. Made things easy so with the parts they had available. I gave her the list back with my edits to it, which was about $1,500, including Windows key, roughly at the time. I told her if she takes it to the guy at the desk, he would help her. She said, oh, I thought you might have the key. Dana, I realized then she thought I worked there. I explained to her I did not. She laughed about it and then asked me if I'd be willing to build since it seemed like her brother was trying to rip her off. I told her, sure. She said she was willing to pay me what she was going to pay her brother. I told her no, I do this as a business and don't charge over $100 per build. So she would end up saving around what that C would costed. Well, right at that time, Kevin appeared hearing that last part. He got in my face, and I mean a few inches before he was going to kiss my cheek close, and started to tell me I'm not allowed to steal customers. Now I've worked retail and convenience store at the manager level. I know the rules on stealing sales from a location. I was not doing that intentionally as she asked me, and not the other way around. She tried to explain on my behalf what happened. He didn't care and said I need to leave, and he'd be happy to help her. Now, Best Buy doesn't work on commissions, so it wasn't that, but just a very jerk move when I wasn't there to poach customers. She told him no and get the manager. This wasn't a Karen, get the manager. Oh, no. This was a hey D, get the manager. The manager was called and she let loose her grievances. I stayed back because if I butted in, it could have made things look worse, since it looked like I broke the rule. Well, the manager was on the employee side, of course. He even went as far to ban me from the store. Yes, I was banned for something I didn't do, as it was asked of me, not me asking her. She was mad now and told the manager she wouldn't be back anymore and will tell people how they really treat customers. Mind you, I've had many random people who just fall in my lap with C questions. I don't do this door-to-doctor salesman looking for people. I have them go to my online site, but that is usually it besides phone calls. I even told the manager that I have a business that uses his store to buy parts if the rainforest site is out of stock. Well, he didn't care because in his eyes I was trying to steal a customer. Well, Kevin looks smug like he won. But won what? Why the smirk face? You just lost 2 customers that were about to spend $3,000. They didn't have my parts I wanted, but I needed other parts anyway. Combined that day, well, we left and I did indeed build the computer for her, but I gave her a Corsair keyboard, K55 if you wanted to know the model, and an RGB mouse pad since the kid didn't have anything but an old keyboard, and I mean old. I set down the tower on the desk and even did some wire management for tripping safety. The kid was in school and she wanted to do a surprise video of him walking in to see it. All is well that ends well, I guess. I still don't go to that store, but she ended up paying me $300 for the build. I did try row refuse, but she wanted me to have it as an apology for the store incident. Their family has kept in contact ever since, because her husband is a huge anime nerd like me. LOL. Of course, her brother was mad, but that's a different story. Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more captivating stories. Share your own experiences, opinions in the comments below, and let's keep the conversation going. Until next time, stay tuned for more epic tales.